The oncology center smelled like disinfectant and false hope. I sat in the familiar blue recliner, watching the poison drip into my veins through the floor, knowing it was supposed to save my life even as it made me feel like I was dying. "How are you feeling today, Mrs. Patterson?" asked Nurse Kelly, checking my vitals with practiced efficiency. "Like I've been hit by a truck," I admitted, managing a weak smile. "But I suppose that's better than the alternative." This was my 8th chemotherapy session for stage 3 breast cancer. The diagnosis had come 6 months after my husband Robert's funeral. As if losing him wasn't enough, my own body had decided to betray me too. "Your ride should be here soon," Kelly said, glancing at the clock. "Your daughter-in-law usually picks you up around this time, right?" "Actually, I'm taking a taxi today. Amanda had other commitments." Kelly's face showed concern. "Are you sure you should be going home alone after treatment? The fatigue can be pretty intense." "I'll be fine," I lied. The truth was, Amanda had stopped offering rides 3 weeks ago, claiming it was too difficult to arrange childcare for my appointments. Never mind that my son Derek was perfectly capable of watching his own children for a few hours. The taxi ride home was bumpy and expensive, but at least the driver was kind enough to help me to the front door when he saw how unsteady I was on my feet. I fumbled in my purse for my house keys, my hands shaking from the medication side effects. The key wouldn't turn. I tried again, thinking maybe the chemo brain fog was making me clumsy. Still nothing. I looked more carefully at the lock and felt my stomach drop. This wasn't my lock. Someone had changed it. My suitcase was sitting on the porch beside the door, packed with my clothes and personal items. A note was taped to the handle in Amanda's precise handwriting: "Gone to stay with sister indefinitely. House needs deep cleaning and repairs before winter." I stood there in the autumn chill, still weak from chemotherapy, staring at my own front door that I could no longer open. The house Robert and I had bought 37 years ago. The house where we'd raised Derek. The house where I'd planned to recover from cancer treatment and rebuild my life. My phone buzzed with a text from Amanda. "Found your suitcase in the guest room. Thought you might need it. Hope your sister has room for you." Face throwing a kiss. My sister lived in Florida and hadn't spoken to me in 5 years. Amanda knew this perfectly well. I sat down heavily on the porch steps, my body still reeling from the morning's treatment. The smart thing would have been to call Derek first, to try to resolve this as a family. But something about Amanda's smugness, her casual cruelty while I was fighting for my life, made me reach for a different number instead. "Patricia Henley speaking." "Patricia, it's Eleanor Patterson. I need to discuss the mortgage on my property." Patricia had been my loan officer at First National Bank for over 15 years. She'd handled the original mortgage, the refinancing, and most recently, the paperwork when Robert died and the loan transferred solely to my name. "Eleanor, how are you feeling? I heard about your diagnosis. I've been keeping you in my prayers." "That's very kind. Patricia, I have a rather urgent situation. Someone has changed the locks on my house and left my belongings on the porch. I believe my daughter-in-law thinks she has some claim to the property." "Oh my goodness. That's awful. Eleanor, just to clarify, the mortgage is entirely in your name now, correct? And all payments are current?" "Yes, though I should mention I've been considering some changes to my estate planning given my health situation." "Of course. What can I do to help right now?" "Well, I've been thinking about the balloon payment that's due next month. The one Amanda and Derek have been so worried about." There was a pause. "Eleanor, I'm not showing any balloon payment on your account. Your mortgage was paid in full 3 years ago." I smiled for the first time all day. That's exactly what I thought. "Could you send me documentation of that? And Patricia, could you also send me the deed information? I want to make sure I understand exactly who owns this property." "Absolutely. I'll email everything within the hour." "Eleanor, are you safe? Do you need me to call the police?" "Not yet. But I may need that documentation to be official before the day is over." After hanging up with Patricia, I made my second call to James Crawford, the attorney who'd handled Robert's estate. "James, it's Eleanor Patterson. I need to accelerate our discussion about the trust arrangement we talked about last month." "Of course. Have you made a decision about the beneficiaries?" "I have. I want to establish the Eleanor Patterson Foundation for Cancer Research, effective immediately. The house and all assets should transfer to fund the foundation. Eleanor, that's incredibly generous, but are you certain? This is a significant decision to make during treatment. I'm absolutely certain. How quickly can you make this legal? If you can come in first thing Monday morning, I can have everything filed by close of business. Perfect. One more thing, James. Could you prepare a notice of pending legal action? I have a feeling I'm going to need to establish my ownership rights before Monday. My third call was to Derek. Mom? How was chemo? Amanda said she couldn't pick you up because Emma had a soccer game. Derek, I'm sitting on my front porch because someone changed the locks on my house. Silence. Then, what do you mean someone changed the locks? I mean exactly that. My key doesn't work, my suitcase is packed on the porch, and your wife left me a note saying I've gone to stay with my sister indefinitely. That's impossible. Amanda wouldn't do that. You must be confused from the medication. The betrayal in that moment was worse than the cancer diagnosis. My own son was choosing to believe I was hallucinating rather than accept that his wife had locked me out of my own home while I was receiving cancer treatment. Derek, I am not confused. I am sitting on the porch of the house your father and I bought in 1987. The house Amanda apparently thinks she can claim by changing the locks. Mom, you're being dramatic. Amanda's been worried about you living alone during treatment. Maybe she thought. She thought what? That she could steal my house while I was getting chemotherapy. It's not stealing. You can't handle that big house anymore, and we've been making the mortgage payments since Dad died. There it was. The lie Amanda had been feeding him. What mortgage payments, Derek? The payments. The $1,500 a month. Amanda showed me the bills. Derek, this house has been paid off for 3 years. There is no mortgage payment. Another long silence. That's impossible. Amanda handles all our finances. She showed me the bank statements. Then Amanda has been lying to you. She's been taking $1,500 a month from your family's budget and claiming it was for my mortgage. A mortgage that doesn't exist. I could hear him moving around, probably looking for the paperwork Amanda had shown him. Derek, I need you to come here right now. Bring Amanda. We're going to sort this out. She's not home. She took the kids to her mother's for the weekend. Of course she did. Amanda was too smart to stick around for the confrontation she knew was coming. Then you come alone. I'll be waiting on my own front porch. 45 minutes later, Derek pulled into the driveway. He looked confused and worried, carrying a folder of papers that Amanda had clearly prepared for exactly this situation. Mom, I brought the mortgage documents. Look, right here it shows. He stopped talking as he opened the folder. I watched his face change as he realized the papers were photocopies, and bad ones. The bank logo was slightly blurred, the numbers didn't line up quite right, and the account number didn't match anything he'd seen on our actual bank statements. These are fake, he said quietly. Yes, they are. But why would Amanda, how long has she been taking money from your family while claiming it was for my house? Probably since your father died 2 years ago. $36,000, if my math is correct. Derek sat down beside me on the steps, still staring at the forged documents. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. When she said you needed help with the mortgage, it seemed reasonable. And then when she said you were getting confused, that maybe you shouldn't be living alone. She's been planning this for months, Derek. Isolating me, convincing you I was incompetent, stealing money from your family to fund her scheme. Today was just the final step. My phone chimed with an email from Patricia at the bank. I showed Derek the mortgage satisfaction letter and the deed information, all clearly showing that I own the house free and clear. What do we do now? Derek asked. Now we wait for Amanda to come home. And we have a conversation about fraud, elder abuse, and the consequences of stealing from family. Derek called Amanda repeatedly, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Finally, around 6 p.m., her car pulled into the driveway. She got out alone, smart enough to leave the children with her mother for what was about to happen. Derek, what are you doing here? I told you I was taking the kids to Mom's for the weekend. We need to talk, Amanda. About the mortgage payments. About the locks. About everything. Amanda's confident smile faltered as she saw the bank documents in Derek's hand. I don't know what your mother has been telling you, but the mortgage was paid off 3 years ago, Derek said flatly. There are no payments. There never were payments. You've been stealing from our family budget for 2 years. That's ridiculous. Eleanor, you're confused again. The medication affects your memory. My memory is fine, I said, standing up slowly. Fine enough to remember that this is my house, paid for with my money, and you have no legal right to change my locks. You can't live here alone. You're sick. You need supervision. What I need is to not have my own family steal from me while I'm fighting cancer. Amanda's mask finally slipped completely. You're going to die anyway. Why should that house sit empty when Derek and I could use it for our family? The words hung in the air like poison. Derek's face went pale. Get out, he said quietly. Derek, I was trying to secure our future. Get out of my mother's house. Get out of my life. We done. You can't be serious. Think about the children. I'm thinking about the children. I'm thinking about what kind of mother steals from a cancer patient. What kind of person locks an elderly woman out of her own home after chemotherapy? Amanda looked around desperately, realizing she'd lost. This isn't over. I'll fight you in court. I'll prove she's incompetent. Good luck with that, I said, pulling out my phone. James Crawford will be filing papers Monday morning establishing a foundation in my name. The house and all assets will be donated to cancer research. Competent people make charitable donations all the time. You can't give away Derek's inheritance. Actually, I can give away my own property. Derek's inheritance will be the knowledge that his mother's legacy helped other families fighting cancer. Families that hopefully won't have to deal with daughters-in-law like you. Amanda stormed off, shouting threats about lawyers and custody battles. But her threats rang hollow. She'd revealed her true nature, and even Derek couldn't pretend anymore. Mom, Derek said after she left, I'll change the locks back tonight. And I'll pay back every penny she stole. Keep your money, sweetheart. Use it for my grandchildren's education. As for the house, I meant what I said about the foundation. But then where will you live? I smiled, feeling stronger than I had in months. I'll find somewhere. Somewhere I can recover in peace, without worrying about who's plotting to steal from me next. 3 months later, I completed my last round of chemotherapy in remission. The Eleanor Patterson Foundation had purchased a small apartment building near the hospital, providing affordable housing for cancer patients and their families during treatment. Amanda and Derek divorced after her arrest for elder abuse and fraud. She served 6 months in jail and paid full restitution. Derek got custody of the children and moved closer to me, determined to rebuild our relationship. As for me, I discovered that sometimes the best way to fight cancer is to fight for yourself. And sometimes the best revenge is living well while helping others do the same. The house that Amanda tried to steal now shelters families facing their own battles with cancer. Every day, I drive past and see children playing in the yard, parents supporting each other through the hardest times of their lives. It's a much better legacy than anything Amanda could have provided.